Hello, this is a Dvar Torah for Parshat Tazria Metzora, the double Parsha. But we're going to focus on just the very first mitzvah in the Parsha of Tazria. The Parsha begins, Isha ki Tazria v'yalda zachar. A woman who gives birth and a woman who conceives and gives birth to a male child, a boy. Utama shivat yamim kimei nidat dovata titma. She shall be tame, she shall be impure for 7 days, just like the days of her nida, her normal monthly cycle that she's impure. This type of impurity she shall have for 7 days. And then it goes on to say, Vayom hashmini Yimol basar olato, and on the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. So this is the commandment from the Torah for the Brit Milah, for the circumcision. Bayom hashmini yimol basar olato. This is from the Torah, after the giving of the Torah. Now we know that the commandment of circumcision was given to Avraham Avinu. That was really the only mitzvah that he was commanded, was the mitzvah of Brit Milah, of circumcision. But this was now given as part of the giving of the Torah to the Jewish people. So this is an incredibly powerful mitzvah. I just wanted to bring out some points about the bris and how special it is, and the fact that it's mentioned here. Now, just as a little bit of a background, one of my grandsons, Chaim Netzach, was born on Parshat Shmini, which was the previous week's Parsha. He was born on Shabbos, and so his bris for the 8th day turned out to be on the Shabbos of Tazria, which is this Parsha. And it talks about how on the 8th day he shall have the bris. And we had a Shabbos bris, so that's also an amazing thing. Brit Milah, Brit means, or bris means covenant. So it is something which binds us. It's an agreement, and it's an everlasting covenant. It's an everlasting agreement that we have with Hashem that binds us to Him forever. It's also an oath. It's something which is a symbol of our connection and our being a Jewish people, being a Jewish person. One of the things we call an oath would be a brit, having that circumcision. Another one is Shabbos. So when we talk about the things that we thank Hashem for in benching, okay, so we say in the second bracha of the benching, when we eat bread, afterwards we say the blessing, the grace after meals. And the second blessing is the blessing of thanksgiving. And we say that Nodei Lecha will thank you for the land of Israel, for taking us out of Egypt, and for the bris that you have engraved upon our flesh. Al britecha shechatamta bivsarenu. And for the Torah, and for life, grace and kindness, chaim, chen v'chesed, and for the food. So the bris is mentioned up there in the list of things that we thank Hashem for every time that we eat. Wow. To thank Hashem every time to have a bris means the bris is really impressive. It's a really important mitzvah. Another one of the things that we call an oath, a sign, a symbol of us being Jewish, and kind of, how you put a sign out on your business to tell what kind of business it is. So the bris is a sign, I'm Jewish. If I have a bris, I'm Jewish. Another sign is Shabbos. So normally, something like a bris, a procedure like a bris, would involve malacha, meaning forbidden work that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. But if the bris is going to be held on the 8th day, and the 8th day is Shabbos, then you're allowed to do the bris on Shabbos. Now, there would be exceptions to it. So, for example, let's say a boy was born, and let's say his 8th day was supposed to be Thursday, and he wasn't well. He was yellow, whatever. And so they delayed it. Well, if the delayed bris, they would say, okay, well, we're ready to do it. He's well enough to do it on Shabbos. No, we don't do it then. But because of this commandment of the Torah, the 8th day, that's when the bris should be done. And there's so many mystical and physical and all kinds of reasons why that is an ideal day to do a bris. So we say, go ahead and do it on Shabbos, which is exactly what happened with us. And in fact, if the 8th day is Shabbos, it's really, really important to do the bris on Shabbos and not to say, you know what, it's going to be too hard. How am I going to, the caterer and the people and the family, and you know what, let's just push it off till Sunday. No, you're supposed to do it on Shabbos. So it's really, really important that the bris be done on the 8th day, and that even supersedes Shabbos, okay? So what does it mean that it supersedes Shabbos? It means that there's two opinions. It doesn't mean that because it says the pasuk in the Torah, so it's like doche HaShabbos, that, you know, it pushes Shabbos aside, but really the things that you're doing are forbidden? Or is the bris just in a special category that Shabbos laws don't apply to that the bris is just so special that it's like doing the service of the Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash. Even on Shabbos, things that they were supposed to do, like shechting animals and burning them on the altar for the Korban Tamid, they were allowed to do it on Shabbos. So a bris is kind of on that level, that it's something which is so holy that even on Shabbos, it supersedes Shabbos. It's like in a category like Shabbos. So you do it no matter what day it is. So let me just tell you some background about the greatness of a bris. There's a pasuk in Tehillim. It says, Sas anochi al imratecha kemotzei shalal rav. This is in Perek Kuf Yud Tet, which is the very longest Perek in Tehillim, that has 196 verses. Each of the 22 letters in the Aleph Beit has 8 verses. So this is Sas Anochi with a Samech, not Samech, a Sin, like a Shin, but pronounced Sa. Sas Anochi Alim Ratecha Kemotzei Shalal Rav, which means I rejoice in your sayings like one who has found a large treasure. Okay, so Sas means to rejoice, and Imratecha means your sayings. Now, the background that we're told in the Gemara about this story is that one time, David HaMelech, King David, who wrote the Tehillim, he went to the bathhouse, and when he was completely undressed and ready to go into the bath, he realized he's naked. And he felt suddenly like, wait a minute, maybe I'm not only naked in a physical sense with no clothes, but maybe I'm naked of mitzvahs. Maybe all of my merits from my mitzvahs have been used up. And then he looked down and he saw his bris. And suddenly he was filled with joy. And it was like he had received a great treasure, because he said, wow, this bris is always with me. And it's not a small merit that the bris gives. It's a huge merit, like a huge treasure. So that baby boy who's circumcised, it's like his bank account is suddenly infused with $1 million. His mitzvah bank account, okay? It's infused with a huge amount of money, and that's enough to bring a person joy. So we know that when we say on Purim, there's a line in the Megillah that says, Layudim haita ora vesimcha vesason vikar. Okay? The Jews had light and joy and rejoicing and greatness. Okay? So the Layudim haita, to the Jews there was ora, which meant Torah, Vesimcha, which is the joy of Yom Tov. Vesason, which is a bris, because of this verse, Sas Anochi, rejoicing. And Vikar refers to tefillin. So those are like the 4 things that are central to the Jewish people. Torah, Yom Tov, which includes Shabbos, the Brit Milah, and the tefillin. And it's from this, Sas Anochi al imratecha. So Sas refers to the bris. The other word in that pasuk, which then is used to mean bris in other contexts, is imratecha, your sayings. So there's another pasuk in Tehillim that says, Ki higdalta al kol shimcha imratecha. You have made imratecha, your words, your sayings, greater than your name. Ki higdalta, because you have made great, al kol shimcha, over your name, imratecha. Your imratecha, your sayings, but also we say imratecha is a code word to mean Brit Milah, to mean the bris. So that means that Hashem considers the mitzvah of the bris to be even higher than his name. And we have a pasuk, again, I've got all of these things from Shiurim that I learned. It's just incredible. In Devarim, in Parshas Nitzavim, we have a pasuk that says, Ki lo b'shamayim hi. When it's talking about the Torah, it says the Torah is not beyond you. It's not in the heavens. Mi ya'aleh lanu hashamayma. Because you may ask, who's going to go up into the heavens to get it? Now, if we look at that verse, that little portion of the verse, Mi ya'aleh lanu hashamayma. The first letters of each word, so Mi is Mem, Ya'aleh is Yud, Lanu is Lamed, Hashamayma is Hey, Milah, Brit Milah. Okay, so the first letters of that word make the word Milah, and the last letters of each word, Mi is a Yud, Ya'aleh is a Hey, then Lanu is a Vav, and Hashamayma is a Hey. So that's Hashem's 4-letter name, the Yud Ke Vav Ke, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, Hashem's transcendent name. So we see that Milah, the word Milah, Bris Milah, is greater because it comes in the first letters of the words, greater than Hashem's name, so which comes at the last letters of the words. So this is the greatness of the bris. I mean, we read these stories in the Torah every year, and we just kind of pass over that one little pasuk about on the 8th day you should circumcise the baby. Wow, look how great the bris is. In fact, we know that during the 40 years of the Jewish people wandering through the desert, so they didn't make a bris on their children because they didn't know if they're going to be traveling the next day, the next hour. And it's dangerous to take a child that's just have basically a surgical procedure. You need to give the child a little time to recover. And if you're going to be traveling and there's going to be the desert, wind, and just the exertion and all that, it could be dangerous. So for pikuach nefesh, to save a life, you don't travel. So the Jewish people, for the most part, did not do a bris. However, the tribe of Levi did do the bris. And it says in Zot HaBracha, the last parsha of the Torah, where Moshe Rabbeinu gives the blessings to all the tribes, he says about the tribe of Levi, Ki shamru imratecha, uvritecha yinsoru. Because it says, and they guarded, they kept, they observed imratecha, your sayings, uvritecha, and your covenant, your brit, yinsoru, they also observed. So imratecha, here it's very clear the connection, because right after it says brit, that imratecha, again, just like we heard from the pasuk in Tehillim, the 2 pasukim in Tehillim, that imratecha means the bris, that the tribe of Levi, they had such mesirus nefesh for Hashem that the bris, they saw how important it was. And so the tribe of Levi, they always circumcised their children, and they relied on Hashem that he would make everything okay. So they were on a very high level, and they've had a very high level of emunah. But we can see again where the word imratecha refers to the bris, and we can see how great and important it was that the tribe of Levi would keep it. So just to emphasize how important a bris is and how lucky our Jewish boys and babies are to have received a bris and to receive the bris on the 8th day, and that it fills up their mitzvah bank account for their entire lives. And we thank Hashem for it. Every time we eat bread and we wash and bench, we thank Hashem for this. This is a great, great mitzvah. Now, you may ask, what about girls? Okay, well, so it says that girls are born already with all the advantages of the bris. So just by being born a Jewish girl, you're already given that full bank account, and Jewish women have such an important part in bringing about the next generation and in supporting all of Jewish life, and just in keeping everything on the straight and narrow, on the right track, that we get credit for our son's brises, our husband, our brother, our uncle, our friend, whatever, because we are keeping the Jewish community going. So wishing everyone a lot of inspiration about the bris. Have a great week, a great Shabbos that's going to be coming up, and we'll talk to you for the next Parsha.